Alright, now, on to the next episode. Today, we shall talk about pacifism. For those who don't know what pacifism is, it's a fairly simple concept. Pacifism is the idea of complete nonviolence and the practice of it. And so, for example, a pacifist would say that you should not attack a person, even if provoked, usually. Now, there's a difference between those who are conflict avoidant and pacifists. Someone who avoids conflict will try their best to minimize violence or otherwise getting aggressive with someone, but they won't just rule it out completely. A pacifist will rule out violence as an option. That is part of what pacifism is. And so, that raises a lot of questions. For example, how moral is pacifism? Oftentimes it's presented as part of a moral code. The idea that hurting others is wrong, so we shouldn't engage in it. But how honestly practical is that, if we're being real? If someone attacks you, should you not attack back? I don't think so. It makes no sense. Not just to me, but in a sense of trying to minimize harm, because if you allow a person to get away with hurting others, they're just going to keep on doing it. Sure, there are very, very rare occasions where a person specifically has it out for one person, so after they hurt that person, they're done. But how often does that actually happen? It's a barely 1% chance, if that. And there's a reason for that. Once someone has decided that the response to negative actions or someone else having negative beliefs is violence, then that results in a justification for a lot of hurting of others. Now, if it's greed, it's even more so, because it is just a matter of I want, or I deserve. At that point, you're not dealing with a rational actor anymore. You're dealing with someone who does not care about others. And so a refusal to fight back, or a refusal to engage in combat when you know conflict is going to come, is impractical, to put it lightly. And this is true for punishment as well. For example, let's say, hypothetically, you are dealing with a crime and you oppose the death penalty. Now, the death penalty, I will firmly say, honestly, I support it 100%. But others don't. So, I have a question for you. Let's say, hypothetically, someone you care about, the person you care the most about in the world, gets killed because someone decides to run up to them and stab them. Maybe they want to mug them, maybe they just hate them. But that person who you care about is now bleeding out. And slowly but surely, their eyes fade out and fog over. Now, this person is eventually caught, because, let's face it, it's not that hard to catch someone who just stabs someone in broad daylight. But, because of bail, they are able to get out. And you later see them attacking another person. So I have a question for you. In such a situation, you have the justice system failing. You have society failing. The government failing. And clearly, since they're still walking the streets, the divines have failed to properly punish this person. So, that begs the question. Who honestly is left to punish? Why, it's just you. If no one else is going to do it, not society, not the law, if no one along this long line of people who should have done something is going to stop someone from doing harm to others, who is left to do it? Just you. And you have to use force to get it through to them. You do. There is no way around it. You cannot stop someone from harming others by talking them down. That's not how aggressive people work. If someone wants to harm you, Do you think saying, "You're just like the people who hurt you," is going to stop them? No, they don't care. In fact, for quite a few of them, they try to say, "Yeah, I know. That's what they did to me. Why should I do anything different to those I don't like?" Behavior is learned. And this escalates when you get beyond just individuals. For example, I firmly don't need that little game of imagination to determine why I stand where I do when it comes to crime. I can sympathize regardless. The idea of someone being taken from you, or so violated that it disgusts you to the very core, or their existence as a human being violated through slavery. Just the concept of that enrages me. I don't need to have it happen to me or someone I know. I just need to know that one of those traitors to humanity is out there to justify it. That's all I need. But hey, some of you aren't like that. Some of you wish to play devil's advocate and say, "Nah, it's too expensive. Let's just keep them in there for 30 years. Let them win out their lives. Or let's have bail reform and just let them scurry away." Really. Just really, people. Now, moral condemnation ain't my strongest point. Not gonna convince you if I just say you're a freaking coward, but I have a question for you. How many lives would you like to see lost? Because, as far as I know, people die. There's no way around it. Even you die. Doesn't matter if you consider yourself just another one, or, more important than as many people as possible. No matter what, when things happen, especially at a large scale, someone's gonna die. Hearts will stop beating. So that begs the question then. Given this, what should you do? Should you just say, "Nah, I shouldn't do anything"? Should you say, "Let's keep going with the policies that are going to result in more deaths because I don't want to be held responsible for all those actions"? Or maybe, just maybe, if a heart's going to die, better to lose 2 than 7. In certain ways, that cruelty, that decision to say, "I value 3 more than 2 and 4 more than 3, is the greatest savior of common decency and people's humanity. Because, in the end, no matter what card it is, no matter if it's a human life or merely some money you're gonna lose, the point still stands. If all else is equal, if the value of my life is supposedly equal to yours, then the loss of my life is equivalent to yours. And, scaling that up, the loss of many lives through death is a tragedy that needs to be minimized by choosing the least amount of deaths. So, how that stacks is fairly simple. Let the fewest people die. If you know that some people are going to die in this number, in this situation, and a different number in this situation, pick the lowest. Choose that, simple as. You may say it's cruel, and you're just looking at people as numbers. And yeah, I am. But tell me, would you rather that, or would you rather people to not see their families again? Mothers and fathers crying, sons and daughters asking where their parents are. What would you rather choose? I know where I stand. It's fairly simple. I'd rather have a situation where fewer people are crying by the end of it. There aren't as many people mourning those they lost, or the suffering that had to be inflicted upon them. And the thing is, pacifism is the worst for this, because that refusal to fight means the refusal to resist those being harmed. It's hard to explain, but a good way to think about it is this. The Nazis weren't going to be stopped by hugs and kisses. They were going to be stopped by putting a bullet in someone's brain. It does not matter whether you approve of communism, capitalism, or any other ideology. So long as you and I can agree, Nazi bad, that their goals of mass extermination for race upon race, ethnicity on ethnicity, were horrible ideas. So long as we can agree on that, then we can safely say they had to be stopped by any means necessary. You could not be passive then. You could not pull the U.S. and wait it out. Because guess what? The war's going to come to you. And by the time it comes to you, if you act like another America First coward, it's going to be bloody. And far worse off than you just said, nope, can't trust you, get rid of them, done. To prolong suffering because you don't want blood on your hands, when blood's going to be spilled regardless, is the peak of cowardice. I can't put it any other way. It is the peak of cowardice. To refuse when you know that people are going to suffer or die. To fight. It is just utterly cowardly. At a certain point you have to say, I will fight. I will hurt others. Because if you don't say that, those who are willing to will use it to hurt you. Now, I'm not saying just go out and hurt people. Absolutely not. There's a balance to be struck. And that balance is very simple. Do not use violence to start the problems. Unless your goal is ending problems before they occur. Like nipping something in the bud, like say, oh, the Nazis win an election in a country. Yep, nope, invade them, done. Get rid of them. Unless it's nipping something in the bud, you should not start conflict, generally speaking. The point of the sword in such a case, or the point of your arms, is to put the conflict to rest. Someone draws a blade, you finish it. Simple. You get ready to fight. If they don't draw the blade, you let it stay. You don't start a fight. Why would you? It makes no sense to do so. Why would I actively harm a person when I benefit from cooperating with them instead? It makes no sense. But if that person's going around and attacking others, then drawing my blade or my gun and making sure they can't hurt others again, perfectly moral. Because that person is not going to stop by just being told no. If they cared about no, they wouldn't be violating others' rights. You cannot reform everyone. You just can't. And the more you keep trying to drone on and try to act moral in these situations, the more people are going to get hurt. Moralism, this moralistic sense of virtue you get by pretending that pacifism is the answer, helps no one. Pragmatism is what saves lives. It's not the preacher that saves the fisherman. It's the man who teaches him how to fish. The man who teaches him how to defend himself. That preacher is useful, certainly. He is the one who can inspire him to be good with the proceeds from the fish he catches. But to survive, to make sure that that fisherman's okay, that priest is entirely irrelevant. It is the soldier, the weaver, the people who actually teach them how to do practical things, how to defend themselves, and how to make sure they can take care of themselves that truly matter in that situation. You cannot get around this at all. And pacifism, no matter what angle you slice it or look at it from, will always be cowardly, because it relies on the person not being willing to fight when fighting is the answer. You may not like fighting as the answer, but sometimes it is. You think your ideals of nonviolence will save the world? No. Because those who want to use violence are going to anyways. You think Putin cares that you don't want to use violence? He's too busy invading Ukraine to care. You think Hamas cares? Or Israel? You think the leader of Iran's just gonna go, yes, I know I'm a religious fundamentalist, but I'm just gonna not oppress our women for a bit and just relax. No. He's gonna keep doing things the same way he always did, and if someone challenges him, he's gonna fight a war over it, or fight a skirmish. Maybe back a terrorist group. Ain't the first time they've done it. One may point to the US and ask, well, what about them and all their interventions? Yeah, we do that. You wanna know what else? Every single time we negotiate, we always get betrayed. Basically every time. Budapest. We negotiated with Russia and Ukraine and said, alright, Ukraine, you give up your nukes, we're all good. Russia won't attack you, they guarantee independence, we'll guarantee our independence. Guess who broke that first? Russia! They abandoned that. What about Vietnam? We negotiated with the North, said, alright, we'll pull out, in exchange you don't invade the South. A few years later, what do? Invade the South. Afghanistan. Negotiate with the Taliban. Set up a timetable, say, alright, we're gonna withdraw by this time. You guys are gonna enter at this time and it'll be good. There'll be no fighting. We don't need to worry. Now granted, Biden shifted up our timetable a bit, but still, that negotiation was right there. And what happened? They invaded rapidly, breaking their end of the deal. Shouldn't need to say, Iran's secret nuclear program. They're doing that too. Most deals the US has entered into, someone has broken it. Us being proactive, given the situation, makes a bit of sense. Now, we're hardly innocent in everything. I mean, we carpet bombed the heck out of Yugoslavia, but yeah. The fact is, when it comes down to it, you cannot just say, yeah, let's be peaceful. Because those who want to hurt you don't care. Putin doesn't care. Xi doesn't care. Kim doesn't care. No one who wants to actually hurt you cares. And you can apply this to the US too. If you think Trump's gonna hurt you, guess what? He's not gonna care how much you pray and say, don't be violent. He's gonna keep doing what he always wants to do. And that's enforce what he believes to be alright for America by whatever means he has available. If that means sending the National Guard to crush a bunch of rioters, well then that's what he's gonna do. Same with Biden. Crushed a strike because he believed that they were essential to keep working. Fact of the matter is, if someone wants to use force, they're going to. The question is, how do you respond? If blood's gonna enter the water, do you want this to be the number of deaths? Or do you want this to be the number of deaths? Which amount of hearts seems less here? I think that should be fairly obvious. But, hey, that's up to you. So decide, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna be passive? You're always welcome to be passive. Get out the way. Let others handle the fighting and the negotiating and actually getting things done. You can go be passive over in your little corner when no one cares about you and where you're only gonna be collateral damage. Or get real. Be ready to fight. Those who want to hurt you are immature. They're pathetic. I won't even pretend like they're respectable. But they're still gonna get their way if you don't wish to fight. So be ready to fight. Otherwise, they get their way. And if you don't want their way, why should you let them have it?